I'm Dan Smolin. I built a successful executive career in marketing and communications before becoming a top headhunter and founding my own executive search firm. Now get this, every day, mainstream media runs stories in which old school bosses and thought leaders frame your work and workplace issues in ways that are often divisive and unmeaningful. And that's just crazy. The time has come for you to answer the question, what's your work fit? So that your work and career fit who you are, how you want to live, and what you want your lasting contributions to be. What's your work fit? It answers your questions and tackles the issues that keep you up at night about advancing your career in this time of workplace revolution. So let's get started. Hey, good day, everyone from around the world. Dan Smolin here. This is What's Your Work Fit? I have an exciting show planned. We have two amazing guests. We'll get right to it. Before we do, I just have to make a personal appeal. The last week's show was an unqualified success. We got a lot of really great feedback on it, which is wonderful. But we need sponsors. So I want to find brands that are willing to lead a revolution with us to work that is joyful, meaningful, part of a day doing a lot of really wonderful things. So that's my soapbox for the moment. We're going to get right to it. I'd like to introduce you all to our guest today. In the top right-hand corner is Danielle Farage. She is a older member of the Gen Z cohort, a top LinkedIn voice for Gen Z, and a digital native. Put her name back up there. She leverages technology to bridge the gap between leaders and talent to create a more inclusive, equitable, and dynamic culture. She's also a work futurist who fosters an elevated consciousness around the intersection of identity, culture, and the workplace. Hello, Danielle.
Hey, Dan, that was an amazing intro. I was like cracking up. I was like beaming. You just had me, on the spectrum.
I had you on hello. Okay, let's get to Billee Howard, the co-founder and CEO of BRANDthrō. Billee is a passionate marketer, brand strategist, insights innovator, customer advocate, and an amazing storyteller who helps the world's top brands and their leadership build data-backed strategies that drive, and this is key, emotional engagement across all stakeholder groups. Hey, Billee.
Hey, Dan. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Let's get started. The question that we have today, why doesn't my boss get Gen Z? And this was submitted by a young woman who is about 22, 23 years old. She calls herself CJ. That's an alias. She doesn't want to be found out by her boss, and this is why, because she wants to know, why doesn't my boss get Gen Z? I want to go to the Gen Z expert herself, Danielle, to get this question started. Danielle, why doesn't her boss get Gen Z?
Well, without knowing much about the situation, and just from that question, I think when we don't know enough of a specific cohort or group, we usually don't understand them to the degree that they would like to be understood. So if your boss doesn't understand you or a whole generation, Gen Z, then it's likely that they don't have many Gen Zers in their life, and maybe they need to meet some new friendtors who can teach them a thing or two about our generation and what we care about and what we value and how we like to work and what we're motivated by. So I think that's, a simple enough answer.
I'm going to add a little more context to CJ's story. She works in a marketing services company. She does project management, and she feels as if she is in constant reaction mode. This is her entry-level job. She loves the work, is frustrated by the lack of intention and the lack of knowledge about what she wants her life to be like, that it includes being with her friends on the weekend, that it includes taking time off for lunch or for something else. She'll get back to the work and she'll do the work.
Yeah, I think that generally, Gen Z has put these lines, these boundaries in place for ourselves and to communicate, from us to the world.
Right.
That we don't live to work, we're working to live. And you can see that in, our buying patterns and how we value experiences over physical objects. And much like the millennials, we're sort of following in that trajectory. And I also think that we just know that so much is possible with the help of technology. I mean, we're digital natives. We like efficiency. We like things to be personalized and curated. And when they're not, it kind of drives us bonkers. And maybe the world around us is used to doing something just because, it's been done this way for so many years. And we really like hacking and finding new and innovative solutions to common problems. Take, Uber, for example. Like, Uber is one of the best things that has ever happened to society. Or Duolingo's TikTok blowing up, it wouldn't have happened if a Gen Zer hadn't stepped up to the plate and said, I want to lead, social media. So I think a lot of it is just kind of like giving us the room and space to innovate and to present ideas. And I think a lot of the time that is just kind of shut down by this mentality of, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it.
Well, that's a perfect segue to Billee, because Billee's doing some amazing research that when I first got my eyes on, I couldn't believe the insight that she and her team were gathering for some really incredible brands. So Billee, I'm going to let you rip with this. Why, from your informed standpoint, why doesn't her boss get Gen Z?
Well, I'd like to take a step back and argue that I don't think that that problem is just germane and pertinent currently to Gen Z. I think many bosses don't understand many of the employees that work for them. I think there might be a finer point on Gen Z because unfortunately they've gotten caught up in entering a work world with no physical interaction, which is horrifying. And I can't even imagine. I've talked about it with my own colleagues at the meeting that I mentioned where we were all together. Like, can you imagine going into the workforce and not being able to have that one-to-one interaction? I think the reason broadly why brands do not understand their employees on a high level is they don't necessarily all understand the pivot that's need to be made, which is employees are customer number one. And if you don't understand who your customers are and what makes them feel, it is virtually impossible to get them to engage in anything in a meaningful way. And whether you're thinking about that as an external customer who you want to advocate and be a part of your brand and find you valuable, there is absolutely no difference in applying that rigor and methodology to your employees. And I think that Gen Z in particular is not understood because at least our research tells us that they often get lumped in with millennials when there are extraordinary differences between the two groups. Gen Z seems to be much more motivated to action, whereas millennials talk a lot about purpose and have for the last decade, and not necessarily that much action has been taken. So there are a lot of interesting nuances, other things like the notion of how self-identification is evolving in real time, whether that's just about gender or it's about culture. It's this natural fluidity that's taking place across the zeitgeist. And whether you're selling somebody to buy and be a part of your brand from a product and service point of view, or you're recruiting and trying to retain someone to be a part of your organization, the thought process and the mentality that needs to go behind it is actually quite the same.
Can you talk a little more about your work with brands and how you feel that it can also apply to those brands, the workplace of those brands?
Well, if you think about, when we do the work that we do, we're basically creating micro segments to go against traditional means of segmentation. And there's no difference in, how you would think about who you're going to hire, whether it's from a soft skill point of view, a hard skill point of view, what the function should be, or the quote unquote type of person that you're looking for. And if we're able to apply that rigor to better understand all of these unique cohorts that exist, we call them emotional cohorts in a consumer marketplace, there is absolutely the opportunity, we do it all the time, to apply that same rigor internally to understand who are employees through the lens of personality. How does that map against a brand personality? Where are the commonalities? Where are the differences? What are people looking for in an experience from an employee point of view? Brand experience doesn't necessarily start externally. It's got to start internally. And, the smartest brands in the world are embracing those ideas. And they're actually using, and I'm not just saying this because we are in the insights business, but they are embracing a confluence of emotion and insights to try to empower people to be a part of things with more knowledge, to make better decisions and actually contribute. And it's a matter of, creating the right type of structure and change management systems inside big businesses for those type of changes to happen. It's not entirely responsible because of COVID, but we need to, it certainly was exacerbated because of it, but with great challenge comes opportunity. And I believe that there's a massive opportunity in front of us to fix this with informed, deeper understanding of employees, no different than what's required with more traditional customers.
When I looked at your research, Billee, one of the things that stunned me was the presence of what I'll call crisis or trauma across your cohorts. I mean, you actually looked at not only what turns you on, but what freaks you out. Why is that important, especially in workplace interaction?
Well, again, I don't delineate between workplace and not workplace. As I said, I really think that our methodology and our mentality seems to be sticking because even though, for example, as Danielle said, her generation doesn't live to work, they work to live. Mm-hmm. However you look at it, whoever you are, whatever generation you fall, there is an increasingly blurred line between personal and professional. And if you don't understand, as I said, not only what makes somebody happy, but what is on their minds and is troubling them, this is one of the most fractured times in history. And we're actually seeing in our work a reversal or a flipping of the script of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So because of the pandemic, because of the war in the Ukraine, because of inflation, because of everything under the sun that you can imagine, people are so emotionally fatigued, whether they're going to work or they're going to Macy's. It doesn't matter. They're not in the mood to engage. And if you lead with a functional need, such as this is the job you need to do, this is the product you need to buy, and you don't see me for who I am and how I'm feeling, it is highly unlikely that I am going to do anything with you, whether it's purchase from you or want to work for you.
Well, that seems to be the perfect segue to our show and tell segment here. Danielle and Billee, I'm going to start with you, Danielle. I'm about to show you. This is an ad that Goldman Sachs is running for talent recruitment. Now, Goldman Sachs is one of the top 3 largest investment banks in the world. Huge company. A lot of the brands that we use, if they're pre-IPO, have probably worked with Goldman Sachs to get capitalized. So Goldman Sachs puts out an ad saying, they show this young woman, presumably a Gen Z person, helping conquer cancer with AI is possible. Okay. Is Goldman Sachs trying to say they're a healthcare company now, an AI company, or an investment firm? And how do you feel about this ad from, I mean, does this support CJ's assertion that my boss doesn't get Gen Z? What do you think? Danielle, you start.
I think immediately when I saw this ad, I just kind of like saw right through it. Do I believe that, you know, a career at Goldman Sachs is the most fulfilling, meaningful one? No. Do I think that if I go work for Goldman Sachs, I'll be helping to conquer cancer with AI? No, not necessarily. I think maybe I'm investing the funds or I'm helping to, in mergers and acquisitions, but
Right.
like I'm not actually doing that. So, and I understand where they were trying to go with it in both from a diversity standpoint, obviously, as well as, this sort of meaningful, Gen Z wants meaningful work. I think that it's just, it doesn't really do it for me, because at the end of the day, and I've been talking about this for a while now, that if the experience that you're selling and the experience that you're delivering are incredibly different,
Mm-hmm.
it basically sets you up to fail. It sets up the talent to fail, and not to accomplish what they wanted to when they originally started. It sets up the company for attrition, because a lot of the time, I think, specifically with Gen Z, we really don't like when we're sold on one thing and we get another, and it's a surprise, and it's usually going to be negative. When it comes to the world of workplace, and even from my own experience when I was in college, I realized just from looking at my older siblings and their
Yeah.
experiences of work and in corporate, that what they had envisioned for themselves and worked for years towards to graduate and work these, jobs at these big companies, what they were expecting wasn't necessarily the reality. Actually, it was very far from it. And what I saw, and took away to help me guide my own path was really, okay, so if a company's saying that, they're going to help enhance your life, and they're going to obviously pay you a good salary, and you're going to get all
Mm-hmm.
these benefits and all the like, flashy things, it doesn't equate to happiness or joy or
Mm.
fulfillment.
Mhm.
And I know that there's like definitely, even in my, just in my own experience of needing to investigate a culture in order to really know what is it like to work at X company. And in my mind, Goldman Sachs, whether they're demanding that people go back to the office or they are, having entry level workers and engineers stay until 3 a.m., like I know that what they're selling on this ad is not the experience that they're delivering. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that sort of, disparity between the two it's way too big for my generation, I think, to even like buy into this idea. Like we really source our knowledge from research and from asking people about their experiences. You got to remember, we're the digital natives. We're going to leverage things like Fishbowl and like Glassdoor, and we're going to be able to sniff out, the BS because we do our research. And probably a lot of Billee's research will also support that as well. So that's just my opinion straight off the
Right.
bat.
Billee, chime in.
I couldn't agree more. And our research actually proves exactly what you just said. So one of the things that we're able to do with our emotional insights, because we get direct response of both primary and secondary emotions, and that was done intentionally because primary emotions predict human behavior, whereas secondary emotions allow us to understand what is most authentically responded to and where there is tension. Meaning, if you said that you love something on a primary emotional point of view and your secondary emotion was something along the lines of anxiety or disappointed, there's clearly a disparity and a large delta between what you may think is an aspirational idea like this, perhaps,
Mm-hmm.
and the likelihood that you believe it if there's a gap in what you said, means that there's tension and you don't authentically buy into it. And I think that that's a problem that many brands have, whether we're talking about retaining or, excuse me, in this case, I would assume recruiting new employees or customers. Again, I don't see there's a difference. What I do see is that people are trying to overcorrect by capturing emotion in these artificial, non-authentic, aspirational ways that don't have any there beneath it. You have to, whether you're selling, cloud services or you're trying to get someone to work at Goldman Sachs, you certainly want to be aspirational, but you need to support whatever that aspiration is, either through education, prescriptive information that explains how and why something is happening. You can no longer make these gross leaps of faith because brand purpose is this squishy, amazing idea that's been around now for 10 or 15 years. It's evolved significantly. We actually just did research last week that shows that the younger generations, as well as the older generations, but more so with millennials and Gen Z, are extremely fatigued by brands talking about purpose that has absolutely no relation to what's on their mind. They want brands to be purposeful and correct for climate change. They want brands to be purposeful and correct in some way for the mental health crisis that's in our country. They don't necessarily want to hear these aspirational ideas, or even they find some of the old ideas a little antiquated. You buy a pair of glasses, you give one to somebody in need. The notion of being purposeful is evolving before our eyes. And I was shocked that we tested, I don't know if you both are familiar with it, but Alan Murray, who is the CEO of Fortune, came out with an idea called stakeholder capitalism as the evolution of what brand purpose needs to be, which is stepping up to the plate, putting your money where your mouth is, and actually best understanding all of your stakeholders and serving them in a way that brings them societal value. And it was incredible to understand that across culture and across age, particularly younger, people actually understand what that idea is and are really excited to see how it unfolds. So I think that hopefully some of this new type of thinking will address some of the issues that Danielle raised, because again, I don't necessarily think that they're only prevalent in the employee experience. I think brands need to correct for that, period.
Yeah, and also one of those examples, or two of them, Billy, that you mentioned, just from my own experience, it's like there's one called greenwashing, where a company says, oh, I'm super about the planet, and then they go and they make fast fashion. And the second one is like rainbow washing, which is really like, oh yeah, we're all about pride flags here, pride flags there during June, but then like, what about an ERG internally to talk about pride, or to host some events, or to contribute towards a cause? Like, it just, where is the action, is I think a really good question. Exactly what
I agree with you. I actually call it purpose washing. That's funny you should say.
Purpose washing.
Oh, that's amazing.
I've written about that. So yeah, I agree.
That is brilliant. So what I'm hearing is just do it. Don't talk about it. Stand behind what you're doing, like Alan Murray, I think, espouses.
But do it in a way that matters. Don't just do it. Do it, and in a way that is germane and pertinent to who you are and what your North Star is, as well as in a way that's going to contribute to society in a meaningful way. The days of being like, oh, we gave $50 million to the Boys Club of America. Who cares? We care, but there needs to be intentionality and understanding that there's a huge, huge difference between philanthropy and actually making impactful societal change.
Just one last thought on that ad. It is devoid of any research and any intentional thinking. I think they should go back to the drawing board and really think about what is it that they're trying to do. What's their game is to recruit and retain. And what I read in the article that I saw posted about it in the New York Post is that it's backfiring brilliantly, and it's missing all the marks.
And that's why you have to, everyone is investing. Again, I'm not just saying that you have to invest in emotional research. You have to reimagine how you think about research and when you're thinking about research. And the earlier you can do it and the more predictive manner in which you can do it, the better off you're going to be, because there's such a huge margin. There's always been a margin for error, but in today's environment with all of these confluence of factors and perfect storms going out there, you really can't afford to hit the mark. And if there is technology and data science and emotional intelligence, such as what we offer and others, that can tell you before $1 is spent how something is going to make someone feel, why wouldn't you do that?
Right, right. Well, let's get to some questions here. So Danielle, Brett Packard wants to know, do you think the boss is prioritizing productivity and profits above their people? What are your thoughts?
I really don't like the word productivity. I just think that the idea that we're usually measuring someone's productivity by their like hours of work is so outdated. So in a lot of contexts, like it doesn't make sense. Like productivity, I love this example because it really illustrates the point. It's like if you take someone who's doing, data science, and it takes them 100 hours to do this one task, right? And then fast forward, you take another person and maybe they do the task in like 10 minutes with some artificial intelligence. They're still in the context of productivity. You would if you were measuring them by hours, you would essentially be paying the person who got it done faster and maybe more accurately less money, right, even though the quality of work might be the same or equal. And in the world of like today with technology and all that you can do literally just for free on the internet, we need to be measuring productivity by so many more things, such as contributing to the culture, obviously completing projects, having it be on time, picking up, extra projects if that's, part of the agreement when you come on, being an ambassador for the company. All of these things are productive for the brand. And at the end of the day, for the shareholders, right? Because if you talk about how much you love your job and you organize events internally and you contribute to the culture, then that eventually means you'll probably attract talent at a lower cost. Right. And you'll probably maybe retain that talent because you're attracting more of this like-minded people, and those people become friends and then they're more likely to stay. So it's just a cyclical thing. And so to get back to the question that Brett, you asked, I think a lot of the time, there's room for improvement in terms of, I think that for a long time we've thought of people in organizations, larger ones more specifically, as sort of cogs in a wheel. That was right. Literally how I saw it, just as an 18-year-old watching my siblings go through it. And I think that now, I'd like to see and we're drawing these lines between DEI, between employee experience. We're drawing a further and more solid line between how people are treated and profits at the end of the day. So there's a ton of research to support, improving the employee experience from so many different angles. I won't get into like all the details, but I think that we could definitely do better.
Billy, what are your thoughts?
I couldn't agree more. And, it goes back to the whole idea of stakeholder capitalism. Any stakeholder has to be treated with respect, has to be treated with some type of value delivery. It has to be a mutuality. You can't expect value from someone if you provide none to somebody else. And in my opinion, employees are one of the most critical components of an organization's ability to succeed in a stakeholder capitalism model.
That's brilliant. Say, we're running out the clock here, and there's so much more that I want to talk to you guys about, and we're just going to have to bring you back at some point. Thank you so much for being on What's Your Work Fit. Before we depart, I'm going to ask you both, what's your work fit? Danielle, what's your work fit? What attribute, condition, experience, place, or state of mind makes work part of your day doing many meaningful things and not just the day?
Totally. So I have at least three non-negotiables for any job that I entertain. One of them has to be fulfilling work. So the work itself has to be contributing to some cause that's improving the lives of one or many people. Secondly, I need to love my team. I need to be surrounded by people who inspire me and who are visionaries and who are talented, obviously, but also who I can collaborate with and whose strengths, balance out my weaknesses and vice versa. And I think the third thing is kind of related, but like a positive culture. I've been in both toxic and really positive cultures. I know what the difference feels and looks like. And, I think it really looks like people who are invested in your success, in your growth. Really a positive culture means to me freedom, that I can, travel for 3 months if I need to and I want to. I'm a creative.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, having sort of a constraints on where I can be limits that creativity. So I need to be able to pick up and go somewhere new to change my environment. And I think that's like mostly it.
You change your environment. You did. You're talking to us today from Paris, France. Good
Yeah.
for you.
One of my
Thank
favorite
you.
places.
Billy, what's your work fit?
Well, I have three non-negotiables as well. They come from probably a different perspective since I'm a little bit older, I think, than Danielle. So I left corporate America for many reasons. Mostly it was, the fact that I felt my ability to innovate and create was stifled by a hierarchy that didn't necessarily always want to accept what they called maverick ideas. So that's why I left agency life and wrote the book, WeCommerce, and it led me on a whole new path to build the technology company that I'm building today, which is BRANDthrō. But the three non-negotiables of people that work with me and around me are as follows. You have to be kind. You have to be very intelligent and know your craft, and as well as know your craft, know as much what you don't know as what you do know, because there's nothing worse than a jack of all trades and master of none. That's extremely frustrating. But most importantly, every single person that works with me, all we do every day, some more than others, is laugh. And if you do not enjoy not only what you do, but who you do it with, you are doing a massive disservice to yourself, because, laughter is critical to any success, whether that's business or personal. And, I think it's something we all deserve and should definitely chase after.
It's just absolutely brilliant. Before we leave, I want you each to point our viewers today to your social media. Danielle, you start first. Where can we find you in the interwebs?
Yeah, so mainly I post a lot on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. Currently working on a new website, so that will be all there, and a new newsletter as well. So lots to be excited about, and look forward to connecting with everyone here, and Billy, you as well. It was really nice to chat with you.
Yes, it was great to meet you.
Billy, where can we find you on the social media spectrum?
I'm most often on LinkedIn, like Danielle. We actually just posted our Insights Outlook for 2023. So I think everyone, if you're interested in some of what was discussed today, you should definitely check that out. I also write a regular column for Forbes. I am also an executive board member of Fast Company, and I'm on Twitter, but not that much. So I think those are plenty places for you to reach me and understand what we do, as well as visiting us at BRANDthrō.com.
Thank you both so much. And again, I hope we can get you back on at a future date.
Thanks so much for having me. Great to meet you.
Thank you.
And there we have it. Well, we lost Billee. I don't know where Billee went.
Oh,
Danielle,
maybe she X'd out.
she may have had to have gone. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Did a great job. You did a wonderful
Thank
job.
you.
I know this isn't easy being time. What, you're 6 hours ahead of us, so I really appreciate
Yeah.
it.
All good. I know it was super fun. It was really great. And I'm not even kidding when I say the intro, the sizzle reel had me like cracking up. Like
Did
it
you
was just,
you
it was
cracked up? But
perfect.
did oh, you liked it? Okay, good.
It was
Um,
perfect.
what you don't know is that Billee and I'm a bit older than she is. We both graduated from the same college program at Park
Oh,
School, Ithaca
awesome.
College. And I actually thought I was going to be a broadcast producer early on in my life. So I studied how to do this. I know how to do this stuff. And what bothers me is that I think a lot of people who could, I'm not saying everybody can, but a lot of people who have the skill, should be doing a pre-roll video like that to kind of talk about what the tee up is about. And
Yeah.
a lot of thought went into it. So thank you for recognizing that. By the way, I think Deborah, our friend Deborah, watched today. I think she was listening.
I hope so. I'm working with her right now, so
Oh,
that's
good.
good.
You know, I worked with her too. She is wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
Her honesty is refreshing. It's
Yeah, I
absolutely
agree.
refreshing.
Yeah.
We had an international audience today. I know we had Tel Aviv. I know we had
Ooh,
London. We have a lot of people
cool.
in the United States and Canada. So I have no idea what the metrics are. I just know that I know of at least 2 people in Tel Aviv that were watching today. So that's
Cool.
pretty
I
cool.
just got I have Brett
Brett,
in my
yes,
invitations. Yeah.
Brett. I'm going to connect you up with Brett. Brett is um, he's a leadership guy. He came out of the same financial soup that we were talking about today, Citibank and I don't think J.P. Morgan, quite possibly. He was a manager, a metrics driven manager who turned into an intentional leader. And so he
Cool.
talks about leadership, and I'm going to make introductions to you and him because I think there's a lot of intersectionality there.
Yeah, would be really, really sweet. I can't get enough of meeting new people. It's
Well, you're
amazing.
you're crushing it, and I am so proud of
Thank
you. You're
you.
doing a great job. I got to watch one live show. Is it Shed? Who is the person
Oh
that has?
yeah, 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 yeah. I had Steven Shedletsky. He's freaking big time author.
I watched that was fun.
Yeah, he's
Um,
great.
so I am here to help you out any way that I can. So please reach
Thank
out to me if
you.
I can. But I am going to connect you up with Brett, and I am going to hopefully when you're back in the city, you and Billy could hook up because I think there might be some opportunities for you to work together.
For sure. Yeah, no, she seems
She's she's wicked smart,
she's so smart.
wicked smart, and
Yeah.
um, yeah, a real pleasure to know her.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I was on a show with her and the former dean of our college together. I want to say about 3 months ago, and it was a great conversation. The problem is I can't find it. I don't know where I got to go find it.
Oh no.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
thank you
that's
so
good.
much. When are you back in New York?
On the 31st of October.
Now, is your family in France?
No, my team is.
Your team's in
So
France.
yeah, we just had our first offsite actually,
Oh,
funny
that's
enough,
great.
last week in like the French countryside. And then
Oof.
today we had a team day, as well as Thursday. And then Friday I'm going to Madrid.
Wow.
Monday I'm going to Barcelona to be with my cousin for a week. And then I fly back the following Monday.
Well, good for you. Well,
Yeah.
you're crushing it, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I gotta
You too.
fly. We'll talk
Yeah.
soon. Bye.
Awesome. All right. Bye.